Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Internet Dads. My name's Spencer. His name's Rory. We've returned, I'm going to say triumphantly, from Ireland.
Well, you've returned triumphantly.
I have. I mean, we had a great week, courtesy of our friends at PokerStars, playing poker in Ireland at the Irish Open. And you're used to this. You've been doing this for a while. It's only my second major event after we did Prague in December. And I don't know any other way to say it apart from I've caught the bug in a big way. Not just me, by the way. Alex too.
I know. I could tell when I was talking to her about it. She's really just totally invested now in poker, isn't she?
I mean, she came out. She wasn't there for the full time we were, but we had a little kind of invitational tournament that you played in and Alex played in as well. And Al's got a decent little backstory in poker. Like, she won our little hashtag inter-club tournament a few years ago. Her brother was like a pro for a little bit back in the day. And she's like so up for us just getting into it in a big way. And I'm not talking about, going mad. I'm talking about really learning it as a sport. I do consider it a sport. I consider it certainly a game that
it's a game
has
of
a
skill.
Serious skill element.
Yeah.
I was playing a tournament recently and a guy said to me something you've probably heard before, but I thought was a really apt way of describing it. He said, poker's mislabeled as a game of luck. It's actually a game of skill and variance.
Yeah.
So it's basically skill that you can have a good day and a bad day, but over time, that skill applied properly will see rewards. And I'm starting to see that.
I completely agree. In terms of like things that get me now, like that intoxicating moment, that adrenaline rush, that dopamine hit, I don't find it anywhere else like I do poker now.
Yeah.
Like, that rush, if I'm in a precarious situation, be it good or bad, if I'm all in for a good reason or all in for a bad reason, the desperate or the confident, I don't think my heart beats or my pulse races. It's basically perennially finding that last minute winner against Tottenham over and over again.
Yeah, and we
It's
talked
a buzz
about
like no other.
the importance of those buzzes, like playing football and stuff.
Yeah.
And as you get older, it's harder to sometimes continue those things. I think a lot of people at my age, like they'll like move into golf and stuff. Like, and I've made it clear before that's not something I see in my future. I think this is that for me.
Poker is a great game for dads.
And I can play it forever. You can play it forever.
Absolutely. And
what's his name? Brunson or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Doyle Brunson.
He's like, where is he? Like 80
Doyle Brunson. Yeah, he's R.I.P. He's brown bread.
Oh, he's no. Oh, okay, so I watched some old videos. So,
but you watch some old videos. No, he's a true icon of the game, and you're right, played into his old age. But I think that poker is perfect for dads. It works. It really does work for who you are, because you can play for an hour. Or you can make it a jaunt and make it kind of your hobby and your holiday.
And we can get better with age. Unlike, as our bodies start to fail us, our brains, hopefully, will stay intact.
Yeah.
And we can learn and learn. So anyway, we're just well into it.
Mate, congratulations. The genesis of the Hendon Mob.
Yes.
The Spendon Mob exists.
This is big. I mean, for those of you that don't know, there's a website called the Hendon Mob, which is basically the website that catalogues everyone's kind of winnings and performances at tournaments.
Northwest London, by the way. That's
yeah, I know. It's your ends, isn't it?
Exactly.
And you don't get like a profile on there, on an account, until you've actually cashed at a tournament. It's an official tournament. And that's what I did in Ireland. I came like 597th or 67th out of about just shy of 5,000 people, which doesn't sound that impressive.
What a run.
But basically in poker, if you're in the top 15% of a field, you tend to get paid. And I was like, just probably 11th%, if you like. Could have been better, as it always is. You're always like, I could have gone better, but I'm buzzing.
You would have taken that before.
We've got him a little flag from Ireland on the account now. We've got a little race going, me and you and Adam as well.
Yeah.
And we're just buzzing to do more, really. And Alex particularly, I think, has got real, And
we'll get something in the diary. There's some glorious locations where we can play. Yeah. And then if we can't get to those, we'll go to Stratford. Yeah, that's also an option. And the other thing that was interesting about this trip, because it is sort of linked to the Internet Dads vibe, is that so Alex came out and our oldest stayed at my mum and dad's, but our youngest is still a bit young. He's not even one yet. So she actually came out with him. And this is the practicalities of a parent juggling work, juggling travel, juggling everything.
Yeah, I know we're really fortunate in our situation, but Alex and I actually needed to play in the same tournament. So obviously we had some help to look after the baby. But, it was just so nice to have us both out there to share something with Al, but she is like genuinely as up for as I am. Like, she's been amazing in the whole football stuff over the last 10 plus years. And she's been a huge part of hashtag, for example, but it's never been her passion. She's loved the idea of us building a business together and being part of that. But this is something she actually loves. So I'm ready to go all in on it. Literally. No pun intended.
There we go.
There we go.
You got the parlance. Perfect.
Yeah, we had a good time, didn't we, in Ireland? And now we're back. And you just told me something off air about a potential espresso ban.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
My wife has flagged that I drink too much coffee.
How much is too much?
I think. Do you know what I think gets? What I think has triggered this reaction from her is my routine in the morning. I'm very particular, right? So it involves a red bush tea first, then an espresso. What it would then involve would be either a run, or if I'm not doing that, then it would be porridge. What I'm often doing now is having the second espresso before anything else.
Okay.
And that's when.
What sort of time are we talking then?
This would be the second espresso could happen before 7 a.m.
Yeah, that's maybe a bit premature, I think.
Yeah, and that's why, because then obviously Victoria's then saying to me, how many through the what's happening when I'm not witnessing it? Kind of like much the same, much the same. I find it very difficult to do two things, particularly in London, like reflex. Walk past a coffee shop without going in, basically can't do it. My other thing, like a reflex. If I walk past a coffee shop, I'm in. If a cab drives past and the light's on, I just hail it. I just get in it.
Nowhere to go.
Yeah, I just get in it. I just find it like such a lovely, luxurious method of travel.
You get in it. Where do you want to go? Oh, no, I'm right,
mate. Just like anywhere, vaguely in the direction that I'm walking, which is, I just find it like a reflex.
Well, you've got cabbies in the family, haven't you?
Cabbies in the family. Cabbies galore in the family. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of the black cab trade. Like I like taxis.
Is it a dying art though?
Yeah, of course it is.
The knowledge.
It's sad. It's a loss to London. I think that trade is going to take a massive hit in the modern world. But obviously that's what it is.
But going back to the coffee thing though. So I mean, it depends who you believe. But so when I went to Costa Rica that time a few years ago, I hated coffee. The only caffeine I'd ever had been energy drinks.
Right.
And, even then I was aware I was someone that was fairly susceptible. Like if I had too much, I'd go a bit mad basically. So I'd really limited my caffeine intake probably over the last decade. Hated the taste of coffee. But I decided, I think I listened to one of Andrew Huberman's podcasts and he's talking about how I think it was up to 4 shots of coffee. So whether that's espressos, whatever, Americanos is what I tend to have, black, is actually optimal in the sense of that can be good for you.
Yeah.
After 4 maybe becomes a problem. So I heard that and I was very aware because I was like, I don't know, 2 years into parenthood that I needed more energy. Basically. And I know caffeine technically doesn't actually give you energy. It just turns off the receptors of tiredness. You don't actually get energy. It
kind of works though. Whatever happens, it works. You feel slightly more invigorated.
Yeah. And I knew I needed it. I couldn't, and at least in the short term, couldn't fix the sleep issue. So I'd go caffeine and I wanted to go like natural with it as opposed to sort of too many energy drinks. So I went to Costa Rica, which is a great place to fall in love with coffee.
You're going to fall in love with coffee anyway.
And I said to Alex, I'm going to have a coffee every day until I like it. And we were there for 6 weeks. First few days, I hated the taste. I can't explain how much I hated the taste. 2-3 weeks in, loved it.
Yeah.
It just works. You can change your taste buds.
Yeah, I find it very soothing. I find the flavour comforting. I find the taste of it just truly enjoyable.
I'm very into the mix. I've never been a wine guy. I've done some wine tastings and I've done a little bit of that, but never really loved it. But I'm really interested in the sort of way you can influence the flavour of the coffee by eating certain things before and stuff. It definitely is a thing.
You're like a mixologist.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
wonderful.
But yeah, so since then I'm a regular coffee drinker now. I probably have minimal 2 a day, maximum 4 a day. I am not someone who can have it late in the day though. If I have it post 2 p.m, I'm not going to bed.
But would you have one after dinner? So if you were out for dinner, so if you were in a nice restaurant, maybe you've had some red wine, maybe something quite heavy, a steak dinner. You're out in the Hawksmoor. You wouldn't just finish off the perfect night with a shot of espresso. Not unless
I'm having a big night and I know I'm going to be up late.
Oh, right.
If I'm going to go to bed that night, no chance.
It doesn't affect my sleep.
Yeah, some people don't. My mum does it. My mum has a coffee before bed.
Yeah,
It
doesn't affect my sleep at all. Do you know, you mentioned the wine thing there, the wine taste. Do you know I failed a sommelier course? Have I ever told you that?
You are definitely the kind of guy I'd have down to do a sommelier course.
It should be.
Got too drunk.
It's almost supposed to be. It's one of those things where you can't really fail it. It's like you know how some things are just almost given because you sit the test. It's like you can't fail a provisional driving test. Everybody is entitled to a provisional driving license. I did this course at a hotel in London where you answer some questions, you taste some wine, you give your opinion on some wine, you detect certain notes, and you are presented with a sommelier. It's cool. You pass a test. I did it with 30 other people. I was the only one who failed it, and I'm convinced. Do you know what happened? The person who was running the course kept making little digs about football fans and stuff.
No.
Yeah. I think that's what happened.
It spilled over.
I think that I made no reference to being a football fan. I made no reference to my love of football to anybody. When I introduced myself, no reference to football whatsoever. But the sommelier who was hosting the course kept suggesting that football fans weren't necessarily righteous people or intelligent. And I thought, this is barbed. This feels like it's aimed at me.
Do you think it was not just that they didn't like football, but maybe you'd said something about their team or something?
Maybe,
like
maybe. He seemed to me to be the kind of guy that found football fans oiky. You know, some people, they're just like very pretentious, very supercilious, and they have this preordained thought that football fans are oiks, which is completely misplaced.
Some are,
I mean, some are, but some wine fans are.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
exactly.
Yeah.
Football is the broadest probably thing in the world, so you've got every kind of thing. But so, did they give you no kind of grounds for your failure?
No feedback. Just said that I did well enough to be allowed to sit at the test again.
Won't have to pay for it again.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Which I've never done.
Yeah. But how was your sommelier?
I thought I was excellent. Nobody else did.
No, really.
Grading myself, I was excellent, and I still believe I am.
I can picture you in that role. I mean, you talked a few weeks ago about wanting to get a bit more into fine art, maybe expand beyond Rolf Harris as your current area of expertise.
Off the back of that episode, to anyone who's watched that episode, you know that the one time that I had a tiny bit of disposable income, I decided to invest it in some art. The art that I chose at the time was incredibly misplaced. It was a Rolf Harris. I sent you the photo of it.
Yeah, to be fair, it's decent.
It's a nice painting.
You can't say what you want about the guy. He was good.
The man knew how to paint a leopard.
Yeah.
Knew how to paint a leopard. Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you think I could sell that? Does anyone want to buy
There's probably some
Rolf Harris painting?
We've got a few things we want to talk about this week, and it's sort of a segue from what we were just talking about, weirdly enough. Like, we've got young children, right? Obviously, they're going to grow up. And interestingly, you've got girls, I've got boys. I'm thinking, fast forward a decade. We've got teenage children. My little boy keeps talking about being a teenager. He's obsessed. I think it's because of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah. He's like, when I'm a teenager. We were watching some movie the other day, which I was a bit annoyed at because it said it was kid-friendly. It was on the kids section of Netflix, but it really scared him. There's this thing called Troll Hunters, and he had a real difficult night sleeping that night because of it. But let's fast forward that decade. Our kids are teenagers.
Yep.
Awful. Is that going to be easier, harder? What do we think is going to happen in the world in the next 10 years that maybe impact that?
Okay, let's work this out between us. Two girls, two boys. Who has it harder?
Definitely
you or me?
It's like Jimmy Conrad quote I said before. You have a boy, you worry about one penis. You have a girl, you worry about a million penises.
I'm not.
And then in 10 years, you've got to worry about the robot penises. As we talked about previously, the robot penises are coming.
I don't think that Jimmy Conrad is correct.
Really?
No, I don't think so. I actually think, you know, when Victoria was pregnant with Pandora, at one point, obviously, we didn't know whether it was going to be a girl or a boy. I genuinely, desperately wanted her to be a girl, primarily because I think it's easier from a boy's perspective, at least.
As the dad, you mean? Why?
Because I don't know if you can empathise with this, but I worry that a lot of my failings, my flaws, my almost sometimes genetic wiring, I think that it would manifest itself far more prevalently in a boy than a girl. So what I am guilty of, and I'm very aware of my own flaws, I just don't think they exist in a girl. They're not. I can't pass them on. Things that I will massively worry about. They of course, I'm incredibly worried about girls. Of course, I'm really worried about my daughters becoming teenagers, and it's a minefield of sort of things I'm going to have to deal with. But I think it's harder with boys. Boys are going to be, broadly speaking here, they're naughtier, they're more aggressive, they're more likely to end up in trouble.
I think as they get older, but at a certain age, girls can be very bitchy, can't they?
Yes, that exists.
I mean, there's that infighting, but I think there's other things to factor in as well, which is the long-term play, which is when we get grey and old, it's way better to have daughters, I think. Your daughters are going to
look after me when I'm old.
Look after you. They're going to come and see you.
Yeah.
The boy's just less likely to do that.
You say that. Again, I've mentioned I'm very aware of my own pitfalls. Do you know the one thing that I am, and I know you are as well, both men of a particular age, I am a doting, diligent grandson and son. I go to my nan's. My nan lives in Kilburn, which isn't particularly convenient for me anymore. I'm there 3 times a week.
You're setting a great example there.
And I'm an only child. Yeah. So it's only me that can do it. You know, if I had a sibling, we could maybe split the load of time.
Yeah, that's fair play to you. I mean, that's a conversation I have had with people close to me, maybe with the way that they interact with their parents. And they might have all the right, beliefs as to why they do this thing and why they don't do it. And I would say to them, look, whatever you do, just remember you're setting that example down as well. So when you become an older person, whatever you've done with your parents might be the way that your kids act with you. But going back to this,
so do you think it's easier with boys?
I don't know. I mean, I think you're right in what you said about the genetic predisposition. If you have, I mean, obviously, Victoria, I'm sure she has flaws too. There's different kinds of flaws. We all have flaws, right?
Yeah.
But if that's a fear of yours, I think that's probably true in the general sense that the girls are more like... She can't iron.
Can't and won't.
A great ironer.
Can't and won't do it.
I know. But I am very good because of the irons. No, so that's a dad joke. But I'm allowed to make them legally.
That's especially here.
So if I can't do them here, where can I do them? But I think that... So this isn't necessarily something you can roll out and apply to every family. But speaking from my own experience, applying the things that I've looked at through genetics in terms of DNA tests, it's really interesting. So when you do the DNA tests, they tell you what percentage of your mum and dad you are. Mm-hmm. So like obviously everyone's generally 50-50, right? But for me, I was like 51% my mum and 49% my dad. And I'm not saying that has a huge factor, and there's obviously those crossovers can be different. But if I look at my siblings, I would definitely say, as a general opinion, my brother is most like my dad. I would say my younger brother is probably... I would have said back in the day he's closer to my mum and I'm a mix in the middle. Maybe those two things are interchangeable now. But certainly my older brother is the closest to my dad, I would say, in terms of characteristics. Not in terms of relationship, but like... And then we've got a little mix. But so I do think that you just can't allow for that. One of your daughters will be way more like Victoria, probably, and one will be a bit more like you, I reckon.
I mean, they're already demonstrating that. One was incredibly easy as a baby. The other one was a complete psycho.
And that's the you one.
And potentially that's the me one, yeah. But do you know, just the things that... These things trouble me. These things worry me in society. They would certainly worry me about my own children. Violence. And I'm probably viewing this wrong. And I'm sure that anybody listening to this will be able to tell me that I'm wrong. But... if anybody is going to be violent, I feel like it's men. If I had children who were boys, I will have to be worried. Gangs, violence, bullying. I'd like to believe that there is a minefield that I'm going to have to walk as a father of girls. But the one that would really get to me is that I feel like I can tolerate anything apart from violence.
Well, I think environment is such a big factor in that. And I don't think you can ever 100% protect anyone, but you can... be really deliberate with the environment you bring your kids up in. And like you're right, maybe the boys are more likely to get involved in that sort of thing or be targeted, but then you could extrapolate that further and say girls are less likely to be able to handle that situation. So even though it's less likely to happen, they may be more vulnerable. I think that the other thing, you could kind of flip your analysis on its head, whether you're saying that you're worried they're going to have your foibles, and you've got to almost plan out and think about what does that look like in a girl. So like, I mean, these are again generalizations. I know people like Jordan Peterson, for example, have got in trouble for saying things like this in the past, and I'm not saying it's my view at all, but I remember that famous interview he had with the Channel 4 journalist, and he was basically making a generalization that for a woman to go further, for a woman to get like to CEO level and all these sorts of things, which generally they don't get the opportunities they should, and they're not as represented in those levels. His argument was that they need to be more disagreeable, which is more of a male trait, i.e. they need to be less likable, maybe less bothered about pleasing everyone, but more. So for them to do that, they have to take on some more, generally speaking, male traits. So what does it look like when you have a daughter who takes on some of your traits? That could be a real string to her bow in some ways, in some avenues in life. There's other great advantages to being more feminine in nature, all these things, and I'm not saying one's better than the other, but I just don't think you can plan for it. I think it's such an interesting exercise having kids. You're essentially in a chemistry lab mixing things together. You don't know what's going to happen.
Is there a quantifiable way of saying what's easier? Like, is there an answer to this? Because I truly believe that the answer is girls. I find girls are easier. Girls are nicer. Women are nice. Like, I find interactions with girls easier. Therefore, and that isn't only about my own children. And maybe again, this might be specific to me, but I feel like I can deal with anything. Apart from violent, that's the thing that really scares me. And maybe the reason it scares me so much is because I've kind of seen it. I've been around it more than I should have been maybe when I was young, that kind of like aggressive male thing.
Are you the idea of you having sons, are you concerned about them being violent or having violent done to them?
Them having a temper. A son of mine having a temper. Yeah, really. Like we now live a very lovely life, and we don't live in London anymore. We've moved out, but part of that is to make it as wholesome and calm, because London's, and this isn't only London, but my experience is London of major cities. It's hectic, isn't it? It's hectic. People are on the front foot. You've got to walk with a bit of an edge. You've got to have a bit of a chip on your shoulder at times. This conversation about all of that, I just don't think it's going to ever be applicable to Clementine.
Has Clementine got any sort of temper?
Yeah.
She has, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel when she portrays that?
I just don't feel like it will... I don't think it will be there when she's 20.
Yeah, I think kids have tempers.
Yeah, she's a child. She's a child, yeah. She's a child. And I'd like to think that when she's 20... Like, Victoria does not... like completely mellow, literally. There is like so laid back, and doesn't have a front foot. Like she would have never flicked the V's in the car. She would have never had, like, I'm not talking road rage here. I'm literally talking like that in the car. She would literally have never done it in her entire life. I've done that.
Yeah,
I've done that, and that kind of thing that I feel that I inherited. But I also feel that I could pass on, which is why I'm happy. There's a thing, isn't there, which I think is very important, and it applies to everybody. And whatever you believe, maybe your inherited problem is, it's called "This Stops With Us." This thing that I'm kind of alluding to here, this slightly aggressive thing, which when I was young, it was encouraged. I didn't have any brothers and sisters. I was a single parent family for a lot of it. My mum was very much like, "Out you go, get out," like. It was necessary for me growing up in the 80s. The world isn't about that anymore.
You think if you had lads, you wouldn't be able to parent them in a way that teaches them that same thing, that isn't necessary. You don't need to be like that. You can be a bit...
I don't know. I think, like I mentioned, I'm aware of my flaws. I think I could potentially be a problem. Victoria said it, and she said it as a joke. But when we found out that Pandora was going to be a girl, which obviously meant we were having 2 girls, which also meant that we were only going to have 2 girls.
You were outnumbered 1 boy to 3 girls.
1 to 3, but also I'm not going to be the father of a son.
Yeah.
Victoria said, it was hugely tongue in cheek. It was said with love, it was said with affection, it was said in jest. But she said, "Thank God, he's far too toxic to be the father of a..." Yeah, he's far too toxic to have a son.
Wow. And you think that comment, even though it was meant with jest, impacted you a little bit, maybe?
It impacted me because I know it's true. It impacted me because there are certain standards that I would expect from other men that aren't even mine. I expect certain standards from you. You know, if I'm on the tube, you know, if a man is sitting down and doesn't stand up to let somebody sit down in the seat, I can feel like this wave of, like, it affects me.
And you don't feel that you wouldn't want your girls to behave that way as well?
No.
This is the interesting thing. No. I think about this a lot. And
but I wouldn't want my sons to either. Sorry, what I'm saying is, I feel like I would pass that on to...
Yeah.
Whereas,
but you would want your lads to get up for someone?
No, absolutely.
Would you want your girls to get up for someone?
Yes.
You should.
The point that I'm making here isn't about them standing up. It's about me potentially telling someone else a situation that has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
I'm annoyed if somebody else isn't behaving properly. And the world doesn't allow for that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, chivalry is dead. The idea of... I'm still being brought up that way. I hold the door open for people. Man or woman, doesn't really make a difference to me. I think that where I have some issue, if you like, it's not something that keeps me up at night, but generally, like, I believe in the differences between men and females. I believe that it should be, equal opportunities for everyone, obviously, but let's not celebrate the differences between the sexes, right? Yeah. And, like, for example, the reason that half the sports aren't, mixed gender is because men have certain physical attributes that are beyond women. So that sort of thing is why man holds the door open for the girl. Those things exist for a reason. I've got no problem keeping those things up. And obviously we should have equality when it comes to things like pay and all these things. There's literally zero argument against that. I'm all for it. But what I would, maybe challenge is this idea that, for example, on a first date, the man always pays. Like, well, hang on. I would do that.
Yeah.
I was brought up that way. Yeah. So I went on a second date with the girl, a third date, and I was still paying. And yet this girl was still of the opinion that we should be earning the same and all these things. I think then chivalry of opening the door, fine. But now I'm paying for everything when we're earning the same. How does that work?
Yeah, but I think once it gets second, third dates, I think things can evolve a touch.
Yeah, first date, no
first
problem.
First date, of course you pay if you're the bloke. Like, what are we doing? Like, what?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, of course you pay if you're the man on a first date.
You get these girls who have a real hard time entertaining the idea of them ever paying.
And I'm sure you get these boys who don't think it's their duty, don't think it's their don't think it's the way that the world should turn.
In a purely rational world, or where we want equal outcome for everyone, then it should be split. I'm not saying that's my style, but it should be.
It's just gentlemanly conduct. Like, sometimes it isn't about looking.
But that is based traditionally on the man earning more money, though, isn't it? That's what it comes from.
I imagine that was probably the genesis of why it's that. But there's also other reasons rather than simply monetary reasons. Politeness.
I want to hear Saffron's take on this. Have you got a mic, Saffron? Come on, get on the mic. It's time. We need
Saffron,
to
this is your moment.
Get a woman's opinion on this.
Saffron, are you live and direct on the mic? This is fantastic. Please welcome everybody. This is our producer Saffron, who is incredibly reluctant to be on the mic.
What are your thoughts on what I just said, Saffron?
I have mixed thoughts. Like, I think on the first date, it's nice for the boy to pay. But I also think, like, it depends who initiated the date as well. Like, say, like, if the girl was like, oh, I would like to go on a date with you, like, or like we should go out. Like, I wouldn't want to assume that they would be paying. Like, I'd always offer.
That's a situation I never found.
Yeah,
I can't empathise with that. I've never been in that situation.
Right. What about chivalry though? Where do you stand on chivalry? You want doors open for you. You want your baggage carried by
I think like doors open is nice, like, but it doesn't have to be like all the time. Like, if you're trying to impress me on the first date, like, I think it's quite nice. But I think, like the whole like. My dad always said to me, like, oh, the man should walk on the outside.
Walk on the outside of the pavement.
Road.
Absolutely.
Like, he should do this. And, like, that's really nice. But, like, if you forget to do it every now and then, like, that's fine.
So did your dad obviously conforms to these?
My dad's very traditional, yeah. But I'm like, my mum's, like, very strong, independent woman as well. So, like, I've been brought up to see both.
Yeah.
So, like, I wouldn't hold it against someone.
I think that's the right balance. I think the right balance is, if you're talking about a potential partner, you look for traits in them that are chivalrous and are the sort of man you want to build a family with or a household with or whatever, but then you don't necessarily expect it from them every time because then you also want to have your own backbone, your own sense of righteousness, and I'm going to go and get what I deserve as a woman, all these things. I'm thinking from the perspective, if I had a daughter, do I want her to be the kind of girl that just wants everything bought for her and all these things? I don't. I want her to be an independent person. Do you know what I mean?
But the two things totally coexist. Like, totally coexist. Like,
you want to find a man who's solid and good, but also the girl to be independent and not needing it.
Like, Victoria has her own career. Yeah. She has her own career. She's incredibly successful within her career. She's off work at the moment, but she's not paying for dinner.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, that's just not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. She earns her own money. She spends her own money on me in different ways. I haven't been in a supermarket since about 2011.
So when you go for dinner, you always pay every time?
Of course.
Me and Al split it.
Of course.
Split it.
Do you?
Yeah.
But
we're completely
But
intertwined.
the trouble is, you're already split. Everything is already split anyway. It's just the act of, like, everything I am is 50-50 with Victoria.
We have a joint account. We're just paying it out of a joint account.
Right. Yeah, so we haven't bothered with that. But by implication, we have a joint account because everything is 50-50.
Yeah.
We have
you guys are married.
We have two children. We're married. I do the ritual of paying. When the bill comes,
that's
to me.
That's not a big deal if it's shared money.
No, but what I mean, we don't share the money in as much as...
If you die, it's hers.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, it's all shared because we are effectively one entity now. But when we were just dating, I'm not going to sit there. The waiter's going to bring the bill and give it to her.
I'm the same camp. I would always pay and offer to pay. Yeah. I think where I'd take offence would be if I felt that the woman expected that.
If you're on date 7,
If
you're on date 7 and you're constantly going out for dinner, of course but that's just being normal, isn't it?
I think the dream scenario is they offer and you say, no, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on me, but no, thanks for offering.
And then occasionally, every now and again, she's done it and you didn't even know.
Yeah, and you're like, what a woman.
She paid the fee. Yeah, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But no, I think that those conventional, traditional norms that are now weirdly frowned upon, they're almost the backbone of society. Like, be polite, be chivalrous, give your seat to someone in need. That can be a man. If a man gets on in crutches, give him your seat.
That. Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I don't understand how it's become so so controversial to vacate your seat for a girl?
I don't think it has, is it? I mean, people maybe have got haven't upheld those standards. Maybe they haven't been taught them, as important. Maybe especially in times of, economic struggle, people are just much more in their own heads and not thinking about helping other people.
I think younger people than us, I think that there is a huge swathe of 20-year-old boys who are completely traditional and would empathise with everything that we said. Those fellas exist, no doubt. But there's also a group of 20-year-old boys who would be like, absolutely not. And I can't empathise with those lads at all.
Yeah, and that's what we've got to think about with our kids and what we teach them on both sides, on female side and the male side. And something that my brother said to me ages ago, which I thought was quite interesting, when his daughter was born, is like he just thought she'll never have to learn to drive, for example.
Why?
She probably won't, will she?
She won't have to learn to drive?
Well, they've got self-driving cars already a thing. Fast forward another 10 years, no one's going to be learning to drive.
Do you think?
I think he's right. I don't think
you'll
be able to
driving.
You'll be able to drive if you want, and maybe not manual. Manual will probably become really a thing of the past. But
that'd be amazing.
Why would you?
I hope you're right. I just didn't see it going this way. It's annoying because I'm just in the process of buying a new car. I'm buying a Volvo.
Oh wow, that's proper dad's. That is.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we had a Volvo for a while.
I'm buying a Volvo. It's beautiful, man.
Yeah, little electric or petrol.
Both.
Hybrid.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, it's got about 40 miles worth of electric in it.
Yeah.
And I probably don't drive more than 40 miles on a regular basis in one hit anyway.
Wait, so does this mean you're upgrading the sort of car?
The banger. The banger's gone. The thing is, it doesn't work anymore. Like,
that's a problem.
It doesn't work. It doesn't lock. It just doesn't work. So I have to get rid of it before the winter sets in. Yeah. But no, because you can't heat it. It doesn't heat.
Yeah, it sounds like you're long overdue in a car.
Yeah.
Fair play to you.
Yeah, so I'm buying a new one, which would be annoying if they bring out, because I want to get at least 10 years worth of use.
It's all the technology's there. Like my car does a lot for me already. Like if I want it to. Yeah, I mean, even the car I've had for nearly 10 years.
Oh, yeah, I've seen your car. You're like Knight Rider, aren't you?
No, so I'm quite loyal to Ford because my mum always worked for Ford. So I've got a Ford Edge.
Ford in Dagenham? God, you're such an Essex boy.
Ford in Brentwood, which was the Europe headquarters.
There was a thing, wasn't there? There was like a famous plant.
Yeah, Dagenham Motors.
Yeah, Dagenham Motors. Yeah.
But no, so we've generally always had Fords, and I've got a Ford Edge, which is like a big 4x4. We've had for about 10 years, and I've got a electric Mustang. And the Edge, when it came out, was quite ahead of its time, and it had the adaptive braking, so you can set the distance on cruise control and it'll brake for you. And that was like 10 years ago. It's pretty ahead of its time, I think, at the time. Nowadays, the Mustang, it does way more. The Mustang will not only do that, it will keep you in lane. So you shouldn't take your hands off the wheel, but you can. It'll keep you in lane. Yeah, it's loads of stuff like that.
Witchcraft.
But obviously the Teslas, it's not legal in this country, but in America, you can just get in a cab with no driver. You know this, right?
No.
In America, you can order a cab and it turns out no driver. You get in and it takes you where you need to go.
I don't think that's true, mate.
That is Saffron, tell him.
No, hang on. Just before.
San Francisco,
have you been in one?
This is 100% true.
No. Have you seen it? Because this isn't true.
This is Rory.
No.
Saffron, can you tell him?
No, Saffron, can you tell him? He's been in it. Unless you've been in it, this doesn't exist.
This does exist. I'll put any money on it.
No, there is no such thing.
No, trust me, honestly, just take my word for it. You can research it afterwards. But so the rest of the podcast, assume what I'm saying is true. It is true.
Okay, just explain this one to me. Riddle me this. Why doesn't it exist here?
So the issue with, and I'm not a massive proponent of them, but I'm just telling you what I know. The issue with the self-driving cars is not the technology, which is fairly, nothing's 100%, but it's basically more reliable than a human driver. The issue is that they're being mixed with human drivers. So if every car was automated, you'd have way less incidents than you do with humans. But because you've got the mix and match, and essentially a car is basically programmed to keep a certain distance from the other car. You literally, I've seen it all happen. You put your sat nav, you put your destination in, it just takes you there. And the where the crashes and things are going, and obviously not all technology is perfect, but where the crashes are happening is usually a human interacting with that, reading it, understanding the situation wrongly and making a mistake. So that's the issue. Essentially, you need to get to a point of critical mass where there's way more automated cars than human cars, and then it will come 100%.
So what do you think? Do you think within the next decade?
Quicker.
Do you?
I think that will. I mean, if America's anything to go by, and we tend to follow them.
Yeah, of course we do. Yeah.
I think it will be rolled out that you can have them on the road in England, and then it will become the norm, and eventually it will become really rare to even drive your own car. It's obviously coming. This is a thing I find. I just watched an episode of the new Black Mirror last night. I don't know if you've seen any of them yet, and it was quite a funny take on the sort of freemium versus subscription model. I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but it's ironic that it was on Netflix as well, which is doing the exact same thing where you get something for a good price and then they go, oh, now you need the premium model to not have ads or whatever. So the issue we've got in life, you go back to your banger with the car thing, right? Like, it's just got so much more expensive to do the same stuff that used to be cheaper. Now, obviously, the experience is improving. So take your car, for example. Like, my first car cost me £400 at a car auction, right? It didn't have power steering. It had a massive dent in the side. It was an orange Vauxhall Corsa. It swerved to the right. You had to steer it like that. It was by all standards, not a good car, but it got me there from A to B. It worked as a car for £400.
Bargain.
To get a car now that is considered a basic sort of car, but has your basic, like what is considered normal in a car now, your power steering, your whatever. No thrills, none of this assisted driving stuff, just your basics. You're talking what? 10 grand plus minimum?
Yeah.
So like, that's not gone up with inflation. TV is a great example of this as well. You want to have the basic TV shows everyone talks about. So really, what do you need? You need Netflix. You need a TV license. You potentially need Sky if you want to watch sport, BT. You need Netflix. You need Disney if you've got kids. You need Paramount. You're talking like a couple £100 to watch TV. When a couple of years ago, it was a TV license, what, £50 a year?
Yeah.
So is the experience getting better? Yeah, we've got more stuff to watch. But are we actually getting better from it? No, we're just getting more lazy. Yeah. And it comes back to the people not driving cars, learning to drive. That's a skill we're going to lose as humans. It comes back to the watcher versus doer type thing. We're just watching more content instead of living our lives. It comes back to talk about sex robots the other day with Joe Weller, and people were losing their humanity. So when my son was first born, this is the point in the episode where I'm going off on my little thing now. So
here we go.
Happens once an episode. Yeah. When my son was born, do you know what my honest, and I don't want to plan his life for him. He can do what he wants. But if you'd ask me what the optimal use of his life would be, you know how for many years people have been saying, get your kids to learn Mandarin or get your kids to learn robotics or AI right now is probably what everyone's saying. They're going to be ahead of the game, coding, whatever. I wanted my kid to be the industry leading, world's best at destroying robots. So I wanted to basically go a bit of land, like move there and basically learn like all the martial arts, but specifically for destroying robots. And then like combine that with like some EMPs, like electromagnetic pulses, like they have in toy soldiers, like to kill them all in one go. Like this kid would be like the Neo of, because I believe there's a revolution coming, and one day they're going to turn to him, and he will be. People come to me, come to my little community. We're going to fight off the robots. Have you seen the film Surrogates with Bruce Willis?
No.
It's a little bit like The Matrix, but basically people are going around as people. You think they're real, but they're actually not. There's someone in the garage pretend to be something else. And there's a revolution. Half the world become these like natural people that live in the woods that want to take that down. About?
So you think
that's what we need to do?
Robot's going to take over the world, and your son is going to be like the Indiana Jones of his day, and
essentially, I'm saying there's a chance.
Mate, this is a light-hearted internet dad's podcast. Like, we're meant to be keeping it as light as possible. I mean, like, can we not talk about FIFA player or something?
We can talk about FIFA player actually, because I was thinking like, I mean, first of all, I've never really truly admitted to even being FIFA player, full stop, for legal reasons. But let's just assume that I was.
Yeah, word on the street.
Allegedly.
Word on the street is that you are.
Yeah, allegedly I was. And would I be comfortable with my kids knowing that? Definitely, because it's part of my career. I've got tattoos relating to it on my body. Like, I don't, and there's a reason I have, because it's a massive, massive reason I'm even here, like in terms of the career I've had. So, you know, it's a comedy character, it's a bit silly. There's some more silly bits than others, but like, it's no different in my opinion. Maybe I'm giving it more credit than it deserves, but in my opinion, it's no different to if you'd had a certain acting role and then you've gone on to win an Oscar. That first acting role is what did it, you know? So, all that stuff, everything I've done, good and bad, my general opinion is that they should know it when they're the right age.
Yeah.
It's all part of the rich tapestry of life. You know, challenges, struggles, bad moments, they should know about them.
You're gonna be very cool, aren't you? Like, you know, when your boys are that age where they're kind of talking about YouTube and YouTubers are cool, your position within the YouTube community and then your friendships within the YouTube community are going to make your kids quite cool, I think.
I don't know if that will cross over with my kids' sort of age range. I've got nephews now who are of that age. Like one of my nephews, I brought him to Wembley when we did the Cyber game, and he was in the VIP area and he was meeting Mr. Beast and Speed, and he thought it was the coolest thing ever. But they don't like think I'm cool. They just think I'm their connection to cool people. Do you know what I mean? So
no, but that works.
Yeah,
that works. I take loads of credit for that. Like, my connection to cool people is what makes me cool in Clementine's eyes.
Though, because my oldest nephew, I gave him. I got one ticket for him and his dad, my brother-in-law, and it's last minute. And I know he loves the YouTube scene. He walked out with me at Upton Park when he was like 4 or 5 when I played in this England Legends game.
Love that.
So I've done a few things with him over the years, and he's the oldest, so he's the most in the scene, and it's the obvious choice. And his dad actually asked me if I could get a ticket. But what I didn't factor in is, like, for example, my second oldest nephew, who's also mad about football and social media and all this stuff, he was like gutted that he saw his cousin go and he didn't go.
Aye.
And he was like asking his mum and dad if I don't like him and stuff like this. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't have the tickets. Like, it's so hard to get them, as you can imagine. But it's almost like sometimes you're better off not giving them it.
Yeah.
Because I've got, like, as I've talked before, I've got 8 nieces and nephews. So
that's hard.
I'm always upsetting one by giving one of them something.
Yeah, that's hard. Although I haven't got that extended family that you've got. Like, you've got a lot to consider. Do you know, for me, it's only really Clementine, because my second daughter is so young that she's not part of this yet. And do you know what I've got? Do you know the brownie points that I've managed to secure? Clementine loves Gladiators.
Yes, I remember.
Are you across this? Has it permeated your life yet? The new version of Gladiators.
Only when you told me about how much you love it,
mate. It's everywhere. It's maybe just because it's in my life, I'm aware of how big it is. But I think it's massive. I think that these Gladiators are bigger than they ever were when we were young.
Really?
Yeah.
It was so big when I was
They were so big, but this is different. Really? They've got spin-off show after spin-off show. They've been in Strictly. I've been voting for various members in Strictly.
You're such an old boy, you are. You love it.
I know. I've been voting because
I bet you use an old school hand.
Up, man.
Have you still got a what's it called?
The old.
No, just like a phone in your house.
No,
I
don't have a landline. No. I don't have a house phone.
I'm very proud of you.
But Clementine loves Gladiators so much. She knows them all. She knows their signature moves. She knows everything about it. Her favourite Gladiator is called Bionic, who she just adores. I have managed to create this incredibly superficial friendship with him. And
really?
I think it's a one-way friendship, you know. I'm a fan of his. My daughter loves him. But he's been kind enough to reply. He's been incredibly generous back.
It's definitely one of the benefits of our jobs. Like, I've been able to befriend various footballers or just various people in life. Like, when I started getting into jiu-jitsu, it's such a much smaller niche. So just because I have followers, when I started following various jiu-jitsu
they follow back. Yeah. Same with the poker.
Yeah.
Same with the poker.
Poker's a good example. Yeah,
you've got presence, and that's how it came across. Yeah, that's how it came about actually with Bionic being kind enough to like send a message for Clementine, just because I followed him on Twitter, on Instagram. Yeah, so it went from there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm old school. My favourite Gladiator is Russell Crowe, Maximus Theridius, whatever his name is.
Yeah,
I will have my vengeance in this life.
Mine used to be Jet. Do you remember Jet?
I remember Wolf.
Wolf was quite scary.
He was the bad guy.
Yeah, there's some scary ones. There's some scary ones now. There's one in particular called Viper. Like, and Clementine was so scared. I said, "There's a chance, we'll go. You can meet Viper." She went, "What?" She went, and I thought she'd say it was actually quite emasculating. She was scared to meet Viper because Viper is so scary. His whole thing is aggressive. Yeah. Doesn't listen to Mark Clattenburg. He's the naughty gladiator. Fearful. Clementine, very fearful of him. I said, "Look, you can meet him." And she panicked. And I thought she'd go, "Will you be there, Daddy, to protect me?" And I'd be like, "Of course." Do you know what she said? She went, "If I meet him, can Bionic be there?"
Fair. It's a good shout from her.
Yeah.
To be fair, she knows what she's talking about. I mean, it's pantomime in a way, isn't it? It's great acting. Yeah. For a heel character to create that fear in a child, whilst it's a bit sad if they're actually scared, it's just great acting. Yeah. You've got to applaud it.
Yeah. No,
you create that real dislike for this,
and then the love
thing
of the others as well.
Yeah.
There's one called Cyclone, who's incredibly fast, and she does this. There's this game where they sort of let out the traps. It's the horse, the hare and the hounds.
Yeah.
Right. So you start sprinting. You don't know who's going to chase you, and then the second klaxon goes off, and a mystery gladiator will chase you and rugby tackle you if they catch you. That has become the game on our close now. Like, we've adopted that game.
So everyone watches it?
All the kids that age seem to be obsessed.
Yeah, see, I'm not really in the sort of TV game anymore. I just don't watch TV.
No.
I started watching the new Black Mirror, watched the adolescence thing, but other than that, it's just a bit of sport.
TV. No, I haven't watched TV.
Like live TV?
For a decade, no.
Like something like Strictly, never.
But it's Clementine.
Yeah. It's
Clementine. These shows are really tailored for like family viewing.
Fine.
So Gladiators has become like a central to our life. Like, we're aware of when it comes back, the new series.
Do you watch it when it's live?
We try and watch it when it's live, and if we don't watch it when it's live, we pretend that we're watching it when it's live.
Yeah.
It's like at New Year's Eve at about 6:30, we went 10, 9. So she thinks that it's like really New Year. But
it's nice to have that appointment to view.
Yeah, it is nice. It is nice.
I only really have that for sport now, unless you fake it, like you say, because it's harder to do. But going back to the landline thing, it reminded me of something I heard from a guy called Dr. Chatterjee, who's a big YouTuber in his own right, doctor, but talks a lot about. He was involved, I think, in that series where they took the phones off the kids at school. But he made an interesting argument for actually reinstating a landline, which I don't even know if it's possible, because I thought they were like killing the landlines.
Right. What's the argument for it?
Basically, that because you've got this problem with you taking your phone to bed.
Yeah.
And your phone to bed. And he's like, one of the solutions for it could be having a landline, only giving it to your. Because the big argument, if you say, I've got to keep my phone close to my bed, is like, what if it's an emergency? So what you do is you give. A handful of people that are the people you want to hear from in an emergency, your landline number.
Yeah.
You keep that next to your bed, and then you never have to your phone in your room.
Yeah.
And it's a good argument
You
if
wouldn't
the technology
believe-
supports it.
Do you know what this podcast has done to me? Our friendship, but this podcast via your friendship, it's really made me aware of my phone so much so. Guess what I've now got? I don't know if you know you can do this upon the iPhone, but you can select a certain amount of time that you're allowed to spend on certain apps.
Yeah, I've had loads of those apps.
So I now am allowed, after 1 hour on Instagram per day, 1 hour Twitter per day, they go dark. So now when I click it, it goes ignore limit, and I'll go, no, I won't ignore limit. I will respect limit.
Yeah.
And I now do that because I'm so aware, and I leave my phone downstairs in the morning.
Yeah,
when I go to bed, I turn it off.
Those apps are good until you just start turning them off. That's when it's a problem.
But I never have so far.
That's good. That's really
I never have so far. The one that I'm struggling with actually is WhatsApp. Because I kind of justify that by saying it's work.
Yeah, well, on my screen time, WhatsApp is always the
number one.
Far and above leader. I do fantasize sometimes about just throwing my phone in the sea.
I know. If I ever, if it's amazing that that's your fantasy. Because I'm the same.
Yeah,
some people fantasize about Lamborghinis. I fantasize about not having social media.
Yeah, well, it's just so hard for us to justify getting rid of it. Literally, that's how we make our money. It would be like a builder throwing their tools in the bin. But maybe one day, who knows? Maybe one day. I do like the old brick phones, going back to 3310 or that sort of thing. Like you can get like middle ground smartphones now where they might have Google Maps and things like that, but you just ban certain apps off them. Yeah. It's like a good middle ground, but it all comes back to discipline.
I'm really impressed with my 1 hour, 1 hour per, and I've stuck to it. Like as soon as the app, like it kind of fades, it goes a touch darker. As soon as it goes darker, I've never ever ignored limit.
All right, let's finish with a quick dad diary. We haven't done one of these for a while. All right, mates, how are you doing? Love the pod and your work outside of it. Got a couple of questions that both may be able to help with. I've got a 4-year-old stepdaughter, been in her life since she turned 1, and I'm expecting another girl in a couple of months. I love my stepdaughter so much, but I'm so worried about having more love for my own child. As I always hear about when you have a baby, you find a new level of love you didn't know was possible and don't want to ever come across or be the case. I don't want that to ever come across or be the case and make my stepdaughter feel any less important. Spence, with the idea of adopting, how do you think you would love them the same as your own, or would it be a different kind of love? There's a second question, but let's answer that first. So,
interesting point.
If you come into someone's life, I haven't done this obviously, but as a step parent, I guess what you don't have is that light bulb moment, like literally see the life created. That for me was a very significant moment with my first child specifically. So you maybe don't have that instant light bulb, bang, I'm a parent now. But I still feel like the love that you would have over time for that stepchild and grow is, in my opinion, would be equivalent. I know it's not always the case and it's hard, and you talked about this a little bit with the Joe Weller episode, but I mean, there is a reason when you adopt, for example, they don't let you adopt within 2 years of having your own child. They don't ever want there to be a crossover because there probably is a risk of favoritism. Not that it would be conscious, but maybe subconsciously. I think the fact that you're asking the question...
Yeah, mate, that's exactly what I was going to say.
The fact that you're asking the question means you got your heart in the right place.
Of it. He's so aware of it, and he's clearly the right man for the job.
Yeah.
He clearly got his priorities in the right order, and the fact that he's flagged it makes me so confident that he is going to distribute his love fairly equally as it should be.
Yeah, I agree. And then when it comes to the adoption thing, I'm making it up as I go along. I have no clear idea.
You're actually going to do it, Spencer?
No, I definitely want to do it. It's a big thing for me. But my current strategy is going to be getting my kids to an older age, sort of like maybe teenage, and then growing. And as we grow up, I'm constantly reinforcing it in their like education. I'm talking to them about this is something we're going to do as a family. This is something that's important to do in life if you can to help people. So I want to try and beat the idea of there being like a competitive element, and more like when those boys are old enough, they feel a kinship and even a guardianship of these younger children that we'll bring in.
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? It's less about sharing. It's more about them helping me help them.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd like to try and do with that. Second question is more towards Rory, having 2 girls. How would you share interest with them? I love football, jiu-jitsu and MMA, but my wife prefers the idea of them doing ballet and gymnastics. Do you ever feel you want them to share the same interests you have and get them involved in sports, or are you happy with the idea that they have their likes and you have yours?
Yeah, I mean, also, it is interesting that, because I think a lot of people think, but because I had 2 girls, they kind of go, I've had it with people. It actually winds me up because it's one of those situations where if I say how I feel, people think I'm not telling the truth.
Yeah.
You know, when people kind of go, oh, look, and then I look defensive. Like, I don't ever want to take Clementine to the football. I don't want to take her to Chelsea. If she wants to go to Chelsea one day, of course I'll take her. She's a Chelsea fan. Nominally, she's got a Chelsea kit. If she ever wants to go, I will take her. But I don't feel this urge to take her to the football.
Is that because of the environment of football?
Yeah. Yeah,
or is it because you maybe want your own thing? Because you're in this girl household, you want to have your dad thing?
Not so much that. It's the environment that I don't think is particularly welcoming for a girl of her age.
I'd agree.
So no, I have no major urgency to take her. But do you know, I got a message once. This is years ago. I used to take Clementine to something called Little Kickers.
Yeah, same.
Right,
the same thing.
The red and the red and
boy does it.
Yeah, the red and white kit. And the reason I would take her there was for no reason other than something to do on a Sunday morning that was active, and one of her friends was going, and I would have a coffee with her dad. Literally that. It was completely interchangeable, whatever the activity was. Someone who I don't particularly like messaged me back, kind of going, oh, at least you get your football thing. I was like, no, dickhead. This isn't me trying to instill my love of football. This is literally an activity. If we're going to be really stereotypical here and go, there are boy hobbies and girl hobbies, I've always had a love of theatre. I've always had a love of both musical theatre and straight theatre. I take Clementine to that. I took her to see Starlight Express very recently at Wembley. I have taken her to see Matilda a couple of times. Like, I know every song from the TV.
Her age, that's really decent as well.
Yeah, I've taken her a couple of times. Yeah, Frozen we've been to. Good. And then just like the little production. So if there is... I mean, I don't think this at all. I went to musical theatre school, but if musical theatre does happen to skew towards the female, I'm invested in that anyway. So we bond over that.
Yeah.
But I don't worry about this at all. We bond over games and all sorts.
I think about my dad. My dad was, so I never liked football until I was really almost a teenager. Like I was almost rebelling against my brother being a big football.
And I was completely obsessed with football. As a single parent family, it was my mum.
Yeah, and it just happened.
Yeah.
So it's probably, if we're being stereotypical, it's probably less likely that Clementine's going to get into football if you don't push her in that direction.
Yeah,
not impossible.
And I'm not pushing her in that direction whatsoever.
So you kind of create the reality there. But I think about when I was into like Games Workshop when I was a kid, like proper geek. My dad would sit down with me. I never knew the rules. Not that it matters, but I didn't play the game.
The figurines.
I just like buying the figures. I like the Lord of the Rings ones. The decent, if you're interested, Space Marine Whirlwind tank was probably my best, and it was the best because my dad painted that one for me, and he was legit because he used to do Airfix when he was a kid. So we'd bond over that, and that was like a me and him thing. And then my younger brother was massively into music, and he was a really talented musician, and my dad would get into that and take him to his gigs. And so my dad followed us. We didn't follow him.
Yeah.
I ended up loving football, and he was a big football fan, and it was great, but it wasn't because of my dad. It was something I found. So I think my dad was great for that. He let us find our interests and then lent into them. Yeah. And sometimes he took up an interest in it himself. Sometimes he just supported it.
That's exactly how I intend to be. I think your dad's a great example there. That's exactly how I intend to be.
Yeah, and the one thing I know my mum definitely was challenged with was having 3 boys. She did make it quite clear at various points throughout her childhood.
Do you think there was a dream? Do you think there was a dream that Saunders was a girl at the time?
I think, my dad always wanted 5 kids, and my mum, I think, she had some issues when she was pregnant with me, so they sort of agreed to go one more time on a 3rd, and I think probably it would have been great for her if it was a girl. Obviously, it's not Saunders' fault. But no, it was something she struggled with at times. I do think now she does take a lot of interest in the stuff we do, like the football club and things, but there was a lot of incidents growing up where it was hard for her, I think, and we were all kind of either into football or into something else that just she wasn't into. And I think she did struggle.
See, this is where I feel so lucky. You know what we were talking about at the very beginning of this episode? when I said all of those, like I wanted girls. Also, I was kind of brought up by my mum and nan anyway, so I kind of had. It's all girls for me. It's my mum, my nan, Victoria, Clementine, Pandora. Like that's my sort of inner circle, and that's exactly how I kind of want it.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good place
lucky,
to be, isn't it?
Very lucky, yeah.
Let us know in the comments, whether you're watching on YouTube or wherever you get your hit of Internet Dads, your take on today's episode. We've covered a fair bit as usual. We want
haven't we just?
We want some dad diaries as well. Of course, we've got lots we haven't even gone through this week, but we'll get through some more of them as soon as we can. You can email us at internetdads@fellasstudios.com. You can DM us on Instagram, Internet Dads Pod, and that is our handle on all social media. Please leave a review, like, rating, all that good stuff. It helps us a lot. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.